So in this video, we're going to talk about the idea of satisfying a sentence with a variable in it. So to get an idea of this idea of satisfaction, we're going to start with a simple sort of case like we've seen before. So let's suppose that our domain contains just two people. Let's just say it's Alice and Bob. And let's suppose that Alice is hungry, but Bob isn't. So we're going to let the meaning of the predicate H be Alice, because she's the only hungry person. Now, it might be helpful to have some names around, so we'll let the name A stand for Alice, and we'll set the name B. We'll let that stand for Bob. Okay. Now, what I really want to think about in this case is a sentence with a variable in it. So a sentence like h of x. So we might start off by asking, is that sentence true in the way that we've set up our language? And we could see that, well, there kind of isn't an answer to that question yet. X is this variable, and we haven't decided to assign it to anybody or not. But here's one thing we can see. We can see that who we assign the variable to would make a difference to whether the sentence is true or not. If we assigned the variable to Alice, then h of x would be true relative to that assignment. When Alice picks out x, or when x picks out Alice, the sentence would be true. So if x picks out Alice, the sentence would be true. On the other hand, if x picked out Bob, the sentence would be false, because then x would pick out a thing that isn't hungry. So even if we haven't yet decided what a variable means, we can see that certain choices would have certain effects. They would make certain sentences true or certain sentences false. And this is basically exactly what the idea of satisfaction is. For now on, we're going to say that Alice satisfies this sentence relative to this variable x, because if we let x stand for Alice, the sentence would be true. And on the other hand, Bob, we can see, does not satisfy this sentence relative to this variable, because if we let this variable pick out Bob, the sentence would be false. So satisfaction, whether you satisfy a sentence relative to a variable, is all about whether you would make the sentence true if you were assigned to that variable. So let me now write down the definition of satisfaction. Okay, so our general definition will be an object O satisfies a sentence phi. I'll write phi just because it could be any sentence, relative to a variable x, just in case phi would be true if O was assigned to x. So that's just the idea that we talked about a moment ago. You satisfy a sentence relative to this variable, just in case if you assign somebody to that variable, or you assign that object to the variable, the resulting sentence would be true. So I want to highlight something straight away. So satisfaction is kind of a complicated relation. It's a relation between a bunch of different things. In our simplified version, it's a relation between an object, a sentence, and a variable. Now, hopefully the first two things sort of make sense. Satisfaction is all about whether a sentence would be true, and the object is sort of the thing that we need to kind of consider. But this part about the variable, and in particular saying which variable you mean, is very important. When we had a simple case like this, just h of x, you may think it wasn't so important to specify what variable you meant, because there is only one variable. The reason why this is important, though, is because we need to think about, we need to be able to apply this definition to sentences containing more than one variable. So suppose we have a sentence like Lx of y. And we'll say that L means loves, roughly. So the interpretation of L, it's the set of pairs, set of lists, where A loves B. And let's imagine that Alice loves Bob, but not vice versa. Okay, so we're thinking about these two people, Alice and Bob. Alice loves Bob, Bob doesn't love Alice, and L is our predicate, which stands for loving. Now, we have this sentence here with two variables in it. Now, we know at this stage we cannot really ask, is the sentence true or not? Because X and Y don't have fixed meanings. It sort of depends on who are we deciding to tag them to, who is assigned to the variable. Now, we could ask, do Alice and Bob satisfy this sentence? And if we just ask, do they satisfy the sentence, without specifying the variables, well, then we can see, well, it's hard to answer the question. Because on the one hand, if X picks out Alice and Y picks out Bob, then the sentence would be true. On the other hand, if X picks out Bob and Y picks out Alice, then the sentence would be false. So when we're thinking about satisfaction, we need to be clear about how the people are being mapped onto the variables. Who is being assigned to what variable? So here we would say Alice and Bob satisfy this sentence with respect to the variables X and Y, respectively, i.e. when X is assigned to Alice and Y is assigned to Bob. But they do not satisfy the sentence relative to YX, where Y is assigned to Alice and X is assigned to Bob. So in this idea of satisfaction, when it comes to sentences with multiple variables, and we're assigning multiple people to variables, and we're thinking about what satisfaction is, it's very important that we have an idea of how the variables and the people or objects are being mapped onto each other.